Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this tutorial, we're going to create this cinematic product shot entirely in Blender. This shot is part of a product commercial I recently completed, and I'll be breaking down the full process behind it. We'll start by creating a dynamic particle burst effect, then enhance the shot with a realistic fluid simulation using Mantaflow, and finally, we'll focus on cinematic lighting to make the product really stand out. This is not just about effects, it's about building a commercial-ready shot from start to finish. So let's jump straight into Blender and get started. Let's start with the particle burst effect, which gives the shot its initial energy and impact. As you can see, I already have 3 collections in my viewport. One contains the product, the second contains the caramel that will burst, and the third includes the particles that will be emitted from the caramel. Let's start with the exploding caramel piece that will drive this effect. Add an explode modifier from the modifier panel to our mesh. It breaks the mesh based on its faces. As you can see, nothing happens. That's because the explode modifier requires particles on the object's surface in order to break it apart. Add a particle system to the mesh and set the render type to none. This is because we'll use the mesh pieces themselves as particles. Make sure the particle system is placed above the explode modifier in the modifier stack. As you can see, it's working now, but the particles are falling downward. To make them explode outward, we need to push them along their normals with some initial energy, so let's tweak a few settings in the particle system. First, lower the particle count, since the main caramel should only burst into a few pieces. Now change the start and end values, because we're creating an explosion and we need all the particles to emit at once. Set the start frame to 10 and the end frame to 11. As you can see, our caramel cube is now broken into pieces, but it's still not exploding outward. To fix this, we need to increase the velocity along the normals. Go to the velocity settings and set the normal value to 15. Now that's what we need. It's exploding perfectly. Since gravity is still on, the pieces are falling down, so let's lower the gravity to keep them in the air. You can also enable rotation so the particles spin along their own axis as they explode. Add a sphere inside the caramel cube, use the same particle system, and assign particle pieces so it feels like the explosion is coming from within. Now add a particle system to the sphere and reuse the one we already created. Then we'll tweak a few settings to refine the effect. In the Render As section, switch from None to Collection, and set the instance type to Collection. Just a quick disclaimer, I've already created my particle pieces and placed them in a collection. They're just small cubes with beveled edges. You can use any object you like for your own effect, just create pieces that match the look you're going for. Now duplicate the particle system we used on the sphere and increase the particle count. Then add some random scale and rotation, and adjust the angular velocity to your liking. I'm going to speed this part up so I don't waste your time while I try different settings to get the desired result. One important change I made is reshaping the sphere to match the caramel, so it has proper normals and the particles explode in the right directions. Add a drag force field to slow down and control the explosion motion. The drag force field slows the explosion. I keyframe the force, 0 at frame 19 and 2 at frame 20, to control how long the push lasts. I've been tweaking the force field settings lately, and I'm actually settling on 12 frames. It's the perfect sweet spot. It looks exactly how I wanted it to. Now, let's add a vortex force field so our particles revolve around the product. Change the strength to 0.2 and the flow to 1. Position your product, like a bottle or soda can, at the center of the explosion. I've included my project file in the description so you can use my assets to follow along. Once you've positioned your product, keyframe the scale so it looks like it's emerging from the explosion. In short, just make sure to match your timing accordingly. Make sure to put both force fields into a new collection. We'll then select this as the effectors collection in our particle system. This ensures the vortex only affects the particles and won't influence the fluid simulation we'll be creating later. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing. I'm not a Blender master, but I love sharing tutorials for the effects I use in my own professional projects. Now, we're going to move on to the fluid simulation. For the fluid simulation, I'm not going to go step by step. Go ahead and set up your domain, and place your flow object at the top of the bottle. Keep the scale of your flow object small, and then we can follow along together. Set your flow behavior to Inflow and increase the surface emission. This allows more fluid to generate from a small object, ensuring a steady stream even with a small scale. Now, add a turbulence force field. Just like before, put it into a collection and set it as the effector collection for the fluid simulation. This ensures the turbulence only affects the liquid. Enable initial velocity and change the normal value to -15. This will give the fluid some starting momentum. I'm changing the value to -8 instead. -16 was a bit too high and made the effect look too aggressive. The fluid is looking good, but it's going straight up, which doesn't look very natural. I'm going to add an obstacle so the fluid creates some random movement after hitting it. That looks good to me. Now, let's tweak a few final settings and bake our mesh to see the final result. Before baking the fluid, make sure to bake your particle system first. Otherwise, the fluid simulation might run into issues or fail to recognize the particles. Now for the final bake. Let's increase the resolution to 110 and set the speed to 0.5. For better stability, change the time steps to a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 16. Finally, set the particle sampling to 4 and the radius to 1.2 to get a denser, smoother fluid. The fluid is baked now, and it looks really good. Now let's move on to lighting. I won't explain every step here because lighting is mostly about experimenting and adjusting by eye. If you'd like, you can follow along, and I'll explain whenever I do something more complex. So I'll start by lighting the caramel. I'm using an area light to light up the caramel and the particles. Now I'm lighting the background plane with a spotlight. I'll also add a wave texture to the light to create a subtle pattern in the background. Now I'm lighting the bottle label, and I'm using light linking so this light only affects the label. This way, it doesn't get too bright or lose its colors. I'm creating a custom emission light using a shader to softly brighten the overall scene. I recommend lighting the glass bottle using light linking. This allows you to control exactly which lights affect the glass, so it doesn't become overexposed or washed out. It also helps preserve reflections and keeps the highlights soft, giving the bottle a more realistic and premium look. In compositing, I mainly use the color balance and glare nodes. The color balance node enhances the colors, contrast, and overall sharpness, while the glare node with fog glow adds a soft light bloom that boosts the indirect lighting. For your camera settings, try experimenting with the focal length. Use a wider lens for the big blast, or zoom in to around 80 mm for those tight detail shots. Don't forget to enable depth of field and select your product as the focus object to get that beautiful, cinematic background blur. I suggest taking a few different angles, both close-up and wide, to try and capture every detail of the scene. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another tutorial soon, but until then, happy blending and take care.